It's the opening night and they're lighting the lights. The orchestra is tuning to make sure they sound right. It's time to start our show tonight.
Hiya, buddy. My name's Buzz. I got the fuzz. I make the elevator do what she does. Hang it up to dry. Express to the top floor.
Welcome to the Arts Live Theatre Show. I'm Stephanie Greer, and this week I'm at the Liverpool Playhouse with a fantastic cast of the Hudsucker Proxy. I'm here with Simon Dormandy, who's the adapter, co-director, and also plays Sydney in the play, and also Joseph Timms, who plays Norville Barnes. Hello, thank you for coming.
Pleasure, thank you. Welcome.
So the Hudsucker Proxy is obviously based on the Coen brothers film of the same name. For those of our viewers who haven't seen the film, can you tell us a little bit about the plot?
It's a rom-com. It's sort of a big-hearted rom-com. It's a story about a young man who comes to the big city full of dreams and hopes, and who falls into the clutches of a devious group of very rich men who think that they can exploit him and put him in charge of their company, and because he's so stupid and so innocent, he'll ruin the company, and they can buy up all the stocks and shares and make themselves rich by sacking him and making the company bounce back. But they make a big mistake, because although this young man, Norville, is innocent, he is not stupid. And that, in a way, is the big heart of the story. It's a story about overcoming cynicism through imagination and playfulness. It's an amazing story.
Right. And Simon, you adapted
I
the
did.
script, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
What made you want to take on such a mammoth task?
I think it's because it's very unusual to find a modern comedy that has the sort of scale of a Shakespeare comedy, in the sense that it's romantic, it's funny on a number of levels. It's funny as a witty piece of work. The script's really great, wisecracking script, but it's also got some great slapstick silliness in it as well. So it sort of caters to all parts of comedy, but it also got a big cast, like a Shakespeare play, and it also has something to say about the whole world. It's got a big message behind it, and it's unusual to find a modern comedy which combines all of those things: romance, wit, slapstick, and something with some real substance to it as well. And so when I saw the movie, I was sort of longing to turn it into a theatre piece, because it's rare, that combination.
Yeah. And the Coen brothers have a unique style in their filmmaking. Did you feel like this was something you wanted to maintain, or that you had to maintain in this production? The
Coen brothers style? Yes, I suppose so, yes. I mean, it's certainly the great thing about the Coens that matches with my particular tastes in theatre is that they're very self-conscious about the way they tell a story. So they tell stories in ways that make the most of what film language can do. They're always playing with little bits and pieces of film language that you've enjoyed in former films. I mean, this particular film is a love letter to the films of the 40s, to the great movies like Wonderful Life or His Girl Friday, with all of that, all the music and the fast-talking style and the heightened characters. And they've created this homage to that film period, and that appeals to me, that sort of awareness of what you're doing, because in theatre that's what I like to do. I like to create theatre that makes the most of it being theatre, that doesn't pretend it's film, that doesn't pretend it's a novel, that doesn't pretend it's a lecture. And I suppose it's to do with, I think that's what it appealed, was their self-awareness about what they do, as well as their great sense of comedy.
And having been with this project obviously from day one, what demands has there been?
Demands, well, it's actually, I suppose the demands of the adaptation are to do with trying to find a theatrical rhythm to the storytelling that reproduces the story of the film, but doesn't depend on film's amazing ability to set up a scene instantly. Seems rather technical, but actually turning a film story into a theatre story is more complicated than you might think, because the mediums are very different. I suppose the other challenges have been to do with trying to make a story which has a cast of 50 with a group of 8 people. And in that, we've been blessed by the most incredible ensemble. I mean, when you come to see it, people come and see it, they'll see an ensemble of actors who can do just about anything. A very good friend of mine, who's a very experienced actor in this sort of work, said when the company came on for their curtain call at the end and there were just 8 of them, he thought, well, what have they done with the other 12 people? And that is part of the fun of it, is watching people go off as one character and instantaneously come on as somebody completely different. That's part of the play of it.
Yeah. Brilliant. And then, Joseph, over to you. So the Coen brothers attract Hollywood A-listers from Brad Pitt to George Clooney to Julianne Moore. How do you feel being involved in this Coen brothers project?
Little old me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't think I've ever been. I don't think it's ever been used in that. Say George Clooney and Joseph Timms. I mean, there's a first. But
It'll happen. It'll happen.
I like to the privilege to be able to do. I mean, because my journey with it started when I got the audition and watched the film first of all, and had a similar reaction to Simon to a degree. I fell in love with the story, and it's a privilege. I'm a big fan of their work. I mean, I think any sort of budding actor worth their salt has seen their films, and we have an awful lot to learn from them. And a lot of the great movies, over the last few years, have been created and developed by them. So it's a joy to be able to work. Because it's an adaptation, and some of the lines are still there, aren't most of them.
I wrote very little.
So it's a pleasure to be able to say their words, really. So it's a dream.
Yeah. And you play Norville, and the piece is about him, isn't it?
Well, I think him coming into a world. I think him coming into a world. I think he is the vehicle to introduce the audience to a season of different characters that exist in New York City and in Hudsucker Industries, from mailroom attendants to secretaries to the big bosses themselves, and it's kind of this. Simon and Toby have done have created a sort of a huge landscape of a world of New York City, and you just get to see glimpses of it through Norville's eyes. So in that way, I guess it is kind of Norville's story, but it's you just see the world through his lens, and it's a treat to play him, with his innocence, and he arrives in the city with just hope and optimism and an idea that he thinks can change the world, and you get to kind of every night live that idea and see the dream unfold, or and it goes like any great story, it kind of gets corrupted, and the idea gets corrupted, and that's where it kind of is fun, but it's great fun.
And you mentioned that you watched the film before you went to the audition. How much did you then use the film when you were preparing for the role?
Well, I think it's a great base. I've always done it as an actor. If I ever get Shakespeare or something like that, I watch it as a way to try and understand the story as best as I possibly can. And I'm nothing like Tim Robbins. I mean, he's a wonderful actor, and 6'2" and blonde and incredibly talented and handsome. And it's just trying to find a version of what he created in the film and trying to distill it as I understand it, really. But you can't. Some of the lines, the delivery of the lines, you try 1,000 different ways in rehearsals, and then you realise that actually the only way you can do it is the way that Tim Robbins says it. So, because he's a genius. So, and the Coen brothers have done that work for us, haven't they?
Yeah.
And so, you play with it, and then you go a full circle, for want of a better metaphor, and find that that's the way to say it.
Yeah. So, what can audiences expect from this production when they come to see it, and why should they come to see it?
I hope that they'll have a wonderful night in the theatre, because it's as I say, the thing that attracted me to it is it's sort of got everything a comedy can have in it. It's got romance. It's got quite a lot of sadness and worry and anxiety as well, which of course is just there to pepper up the joy at the end. So it's a big-hearted, lovely evening of theatre, but also, as well as the story, and this amazing ensemble working at the top of its game, it's also got it enjoys the business of making theatre. You'll see the stage do things you may never have seen stages do before. Yeah. The way the set moves is astonishing. Set designer Dick Bird and video designer Tim have created a sort of constantly changing landscape behind what we do. So it's, I suppose, astonishment and joy, I would hope, is what you'll get from it.
Oh, that's a nice advertisement, isn't it? Enjoy. Great. I read that the Coen brothers have been really behind this project. Have they been to see it yet?
Not as far as we know, unless they're wearing very big red beards. They're incredibly busy. They've been in Cannes, heading up the jury in Cannes, and they've got 2 other projects which they're working on at the moment. So we were told at the very beginning that they probably wouldn't be able to make these particular dates. We were also told, though, that they might slip in at any point. So you never know. I always sort of wonder, was that Joel laughing there? You know? Or was that Joel walking out at that point? So, no, they haven't seen it, but we'd all dearly love them to see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you just melt, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, because we're all just big fans.
Super geeks.
Yeah. So it's keep you on your toes, I guess.
Yeah.
They could be in the audience at any.
Exactly. Liverpool do that. They keep us on our toes.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Someone's in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Without Miss Turner knowing it.
They say the Hudsucker clock is set to the time on her watch.
You don't want to cross Miss Turner. So good luck, buddy. You're gonna need it.
The Hudsucker Proxy is a co-production between Nuffield Theatre Southampton, Complicité and of course the Liverpool Playhouse, and it runs until the 27th of June. After the break, we'll be with the Hillbark Players, who've been producing open-air Shakespeare within their community for over 50 years. Don't go away. Welcome back to Arts Live Theatre. Over on the Wirral, the Hillbark Players are in their final stages of rehearsals for Much Ado About Nothing, and we went along to see how they're getting on.
It's a comedy, a romantic comedy with 2 couples, the classic young love of Hero and Claudio, and also as a counterpoint to that there is Benedict and Beatrice, who are an older couple, and they've been together then apart, and they're quite feisty with each other. And it's basically how both of those couples come together, break apart, and finally come together again. And it is, as I say, a romantic comedy, but it does have some darker overtones as well. And one of the villains of the piece, excellent actor, who's really able to convey that sort of the darkness and the darker side of Shakespeare. But essentially, it's a comedy.
I came to the first production in 1965, Romeo and Juliet, and as I've said in the programme notes, I got hooked on the Hillbark way of presenting Shakespeare in the open air with the audience undercover and with us actors braving the elements. So I auditioned for the 1967 production and got in, and I've been here ever since. And this is my 17th performing time. This is. And I'm now a spear carrier. I've moved off through all the parts, and I'm now carrying a spear, or in fact I'm actually carrying a halberd this time, because I wanted to be involved in some way, shape or form. It's a strange company because it doesn't really exist. The only thing that exists is a committee and a set of audited books. So you cannot belong to Hillbark Players. There's nothing to belong to. So every time 2 years comes round, we say, shall we do another play? And everyone says yes. We advertise for cast. We invite a director. We say to the director, we'll find your own team. Decide who you want to be your stage manager, do the lighting, who you want to do the costumes, what props you want. Here's an amount of money. Just get on, it's up to you. And the auditions are advertised in drama groups, OPSOCs, local press, etc. And we have a range of people who turn up, some of whom have been in it before, a lot of whom are new. And typically we end up with a cast that's probably about 2/3 done it before and 1/3 new. And the thing just continues and evolves. And we do it exactly the way the founders set it up in 50 years ago. So.
Well, the company as it as a group of the same people every time doesn't exactly exist in that format. So most of us come from other amateur drama groups, but also some have not done anything or very much before, so they would be new to amateur theatre, or certainly new to open air theatre, which is a completely different ball game. But so I've been, as I say, that's about the last 3 I've done, and 98. So some people dip in and dip out, have a bit of a break, and then come back to it.
But we build a theatre in the woods. We take a public park, Royden Park, and we actually build a proper theatre, a 450-seater theatre with 3 stands. We pay a lot for that. We get theatre-style lighting. We create a theatre in the middle of the woods of a public park, and we have to have 24-hour-a-day security for 2 full weeks. The week of the setup, which is next week, and the week of the production itself from the 22nd of June. So we create a whole theatre environment with a bar tent, cast tents, VIP tents, box office, security, electrician's hut, St John's ambulance facilities, refreshments, etc., props tent. So we create quite a large theatre in the middle of a public park.
There's something extraordinary about seeing Shakespeare, and it's an honour as well sometimes to actually be performing something that somebody's probably performing somewhere else in the world, that's so ancient, but the open air aspect as well. Seeing Shakespeare should be fun anyway, but there's something magical as the lights start to dip and our house lights come up. We light up the back of the woods. There's just something nice about that experience for both the actors, as long as the weather's okay, and even if the weather isn't, the audience are perfectly fine under cover. It's us that might get a bit damp, but there's something special about the open air aspect of Shakespeare as well.
And what are you enjoying the most about directing this play at the moment with these guys?
I have to say that it's probably the fact that it's a very cooperative venture. It's not about, as director, I don't see it about me coming along with a whole set of ideas and just imposing them on the actors. So while I've got a framework of ideas that I started off with, which in fact also included carving poor William Shakespeare's dialogue to bits to try and fit it into a reasonable length of time for a show in Midsummer in England. I've also been able to spend time with the actors, garnering their ideas, getting an idea of how their characters act and react on stage, and also talking to them about particularly the comedic bits. And it's been very much a sort of collaborative thing.
It's beautiful language. I love all that to it. The whole thing about acting out in the woods. There's something primal going on there. Where I grew up, our house backed onto to some woods which we used to go and play in, and I think there's something that connects with me just in doing this in the middle of a wooded glade. It's really nice.
It's funny. It's a really funny comedy. And sometimes Shakespeare's comedies don't work out like that. It'll say it's a comedy, and sometimes people struggle with the language or struggle to find the comedy in it. But for this one, no, it's pretty obvious. There's lots of fun in it, and it's hilarious in places, and some of that's not so much about what's said, but what isn't said, the pauses and the gaps, that the audience get a chance to laugh at as well. So that's the good thing about this one. It is actually very funny.
Well, I have to say, if people want to get tickets, they're going to have to get a shift on, because they're going very fast now. But if they go onto the Hillbark Players website, so that's www.hillbarkplayers.com. I think it's .co or .org. Look it up; it'll come. You Google it. Other websites are also available. Then you'll find a link to the Floral Pavilion, or you can go direct to the Floral Pavilion, and they too will be able to. They will provide the tickets. They're hosting our ticket sales in our box office. As I say, be there or you'll miss a great treat.
Much Ado About Nothing is playing in Roydon Park from the 22nd of June to the 27th of June. Thanks for watching Arts Alive Theatre. I'm Stephanie Greer. See you next time.